Now, this is how it's done. A Democrat striking back at these MAGA Republicans and at Donald Trump in public. And not just any Democrat, a veteran, former Special Forces Democratic Congress member Jason Crow. And in public, he stood up to Donald Trump and said the following. He said, "I bristle when a 5-time draft dodger like Donald Trump bangs the war drums in Washington, D.C." And Congressmember Crow was giving this incredible pushback against the Trump regime's warmongering on CNN. You know, we've had him here on the MeidasTouch network quite a few times as well. And throughout the day, Congressman Crow was on fire. He went on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, where he talked about personally being haunted by the ghosts of Iraq and Afghanistan and the places where he served as a 3-time combat veteran in Iraq, in Afghanistan. And it is such a contrast to Lindsey Graham and Senator Tim Scott and Stephen Miller and all of these warmongers and Donald Trump who talk about, oh, we're going to take over Greenland. Oh, Canada, the 51st state. Oh, we're going after Colombia. Oh, then we're going to go after Iran. I mean, whatever it is in Lindsey Graham and some of these people's personal life, the personal demons that they struggle with, where they literally get off acting like they're a tough guy and warmongering while sending people who are far less fortunate than them into battle zones to lose their lives. That's exactly what Congressmember Crow is talking about here. So here's Congressman Crow saying, "Let me explain to you that as a 3-time combat veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan, Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about." Play this clip.
We are actually talking about Greenland instead of inflation. Right. Like, we're talking about inventing other countries.
On Saturday, he said we're going to spend billions of dollars rebuilding their infrastructure, right? This is a man who campaigned largely as an isolationist, who campaigned about pulling back and ending conflict. And in the first year of his administration, we've bombed Iran, Yemen. Now we've gone after Venezuela, as well as many others. I mean, this man doesn't see a problem that he doesn't think he can bomb his way out of or use the military to do. And frankly, I'm sorry, as a 3-time combat veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan, I bristle when a 5-time draft dodger bangs the war drums in Washington, D.C., because when elites bang the war drums in Washington, D.C., what happens is some young kid in a rural town in middle America, in places where I grew up, has to pick up a rifle, jump into a tank, jump into a helicopter, and do the tough thing. It's never Donald Trump. It's never people like Stephen Miller. They never have to do this the tough stuff. It's people like me and the people that I grew up with that have to do it. And America, again, is over all of this, right? They want peace. They want restraint. They want people to be smart about the use of power. Yes, they want toughness, but they want smart toughness.
Then earlier in the day, Congressmember Crow was on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, and he talks about, as a 3-time combat veteran, how he is haunted by the ghosts of Iraq and Afghanistan, and what really went down there, and why this warmongering by these MAGA Republicans is not what the American people want. And he's saying it from the perspective of a combat veteran and former Special Forces. Here, play this clip.
The more important questions to me right now are, should we have done this, and what comes next? You know, I am haunted by the ghosts of Iraq and Afghanistan, where those invasions, those military operations initially went flawless as well. But then it was the years later, the trillions of dollars spent, the thousands of American lives, the decades of lost opportunity that followed that were the problem. And the appetite for Americans right now for more nation building, more endless quagmires is almost zero, right? People are struggling with healthcare, their housing, that's where they want our focus.
Now, what a contrast between that and Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. Here's Lindsey Graham. Play this clip.
Who's in charge of Venezuela? Donald J. Trump. Now, people from the regime, the old regime, are helping us. We don't want to put a bunch of troops on the ground. So we got people from the old regime helping us rebuild the country to transition to democratic elections. There will be regime change in Venezuela through the ballot box. But who's in charge of Venezuela? Donald J. Trump. If you defy him, if you're one of the holdovers and you try to undercut him, what happened to Maduro is going to happen to you.
And here's Tim Scott on state regime media. Play this clip.
Ticket. The majority is in the hands of the people, and I thank God Almighty we are following our president, Donald J. Trump. We deserve your support. Go to lindseygraham.com and make a contribution, and let's stay in the majority.
Now, recently, Tennessee Brando from the MeidasTouch Network, a country singer who is also a host on the MeidasTouch Network, he also highlighted how these Trump MAGA warmongers, as part of their propaganda, with all of these Venezuela videos of the Trump invasion out there, how the White House was using the song Fortunate Son as kind of their anthem for war. And Tennessee Brando points out, like, do y'all know what the lyrics of Fortunate Son really is? What Fortunate Son is actually a song about? It's about how the person is not a fortunate son like all of these children of the wealthy, of the elites who dodge the wars, who draft dodge, while the people fighting these wars are not the fortunate sons. That's what the song is about, contrasting who fights the wars and who they are fighting the war actually for, and how they're being deceived into fighting these never-ending wars. Here's Tennessee Brando's breakdown. It's incredible. Make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Help us get to 6 million subscribers, and also subscribe to Tennessee Brando's YouTube channel as well. Such an honor to have Tennessee Brando as one of the hosts at the MeidasTouch Network. Let's play this clip.
You know, when it comes to protest music, MAGA truly is the most clueless bunch of people I have ever seen in my life. I can't count the times that a MAGA politician, including Trump himself, has walked out on stage to a song by an artist, and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, do they not know who that artist is? Why are they walking out to Neil Young? Why are they walking out to Bruce Springsteen? Have they not paid attention to the lyrics of the song? Do they not understand it at all? No, folks, they don't. And in one of the craziest twists I have ever seen, Donald Trump shared a video of the attacks on Venezuela with the song Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival playing underneath it. And MAGA's on Twitter sharing this and saying, I've never felt more patriotic in my life. Go the red, white, and blue. And I'm like, have you ever actually listened to the words to that song? And do you not know what it's about? Do you not know what it is? The song is Fortunate Son. It is talking about, I am not fortunate enough to get out of going to war. Donald Trump was a draft dodger. We call him Captain Bone Spurs for a reason, okay? Donald Trump dodged the draft. He didn't serve when it was his time to go. And people like John Fogerty, who wrote that song, wasn't fortunate enough to get out of it, and they had to go and face the music. So it's absolutely a slap in the face of John Fogerty and CCR and to the song in itself, because it's speaking from someone's point of view who wasn't lucky enough and fortunate enough to be able to get out of going to Vietnam. So I can't play the clip because the song's copyrighted, but I've played the song quite a bit over my lifetime. I was first introduced to it, by the way, on the movie Forrest Gump. That's the first time that I remember hearing it and thinking it was cool. And then I discovered CCR just a little bit after that movie came out. But I pretty much had the lyrics memorized if I can get through them. It's a little bit hard for me to remember words sometimes when I'm not playing my guitar. It's like a muscle memory thing, but let's see if I can do it. So it starts off, some folks are born made to wave the flag, oh, the red, white, and blue. But when the band plays Hail to the Chief, they point the cannon right at you. But it ain't me, I ain't no senator's son. It ain't me, I ain't no fortunate one. He's talking about how my dad can't get me out of this one, okay? They point the cannon right at me. I have to go. That's what he's talking about. See, the next verse is, some folks are born silver spoon in hand. Lord, don't they help themselves. But when the tax man comes to the door, the house looks like a rummage sale. But it ain't me, I ain't no millionaire's son. Folks, that verse right there, if that song had came out today, in 2026, I would say to you, I bet he wrote that about Trump. I bet he was thinking about Trump when he wrote that, because Donald Trump was born with a silver spoon in his hand. He never had to help himself, and he's never paid taxes. He don't believe in that shit. He never, we went through that whole rigmarole with him before. The dude is an absolute disgrace. But in the last verse, it says, some folks inherit star-spangled eyes. They send you down to war. And when you ask them, how much should we give? They only answer more, more, more. But it ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't the fortunate one. And that's the type of song that Donald Trump puts under attacking Venezuela. And then MAGA shares it and says, oh boy, I've never felt more patriotic in my life. Let's turn the cannons at them. They completely missed the point, just like they have so many times over the years. And I could go back before Trump even came along. You used to see people come out to Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. And I'm like, have they never paid attention to the words? Do they not understand what it's saying? Why are Republican politicians walking out to Rockin' in a Free World by Neil Young? It's never made any sense to me. And that's why that they've always got cease and desist letters. But what it really goes to show is how clueless MAGA is, and it also goes to show where they would have stood in history if we were back years and years ago. I was raised an only child by two boomer parents, and luckily for me, they're not the kind of boomers that are like Trump at all. I'm very fortunate, no pun intended, but I am. I'm very fortunate that my mom and dad both are like-minded, and we can have conversations about this stuff. And I can go back and question them on how things were back in the 60s when they were growing up. My mom was born in 1950, my dad in 52. So they were kids in the 50s and they were teenagers in the 60s. And then they were, in their 20s and the 70s. And I was out at a protest not long ago, and there was a guy that said to me, he said, well, it was a whole lot more fun being in my 20s and the 70s than it is being in my 70s and the 20s. But, I grew up in a family where I was raised an only child. And so, I love my mom and dad's music. I love my mom and dad's, movies and their TV shows and, the people that, were heroes back when they were a kid. And I used to, think to myself, what would it have been like to have grew up back in the 60s during all that turmoil? And what would it have been like to see, Muhammad Ali stand up and say, I'm not going, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. I wonder what that would have been like. And you talk to people today. Over the years, I've known so many people that swears up and down they love Muhammad Ali. They say he's one of their heroes and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but you're sitting here cheering on Donald Trump, and you thought that Colin Kaepernick should be ran out of the NFL and never be allowed to play a game again. So I have a really hard time believing that back then, if you'd have been alive and Muhammad Ali had stood up and said, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong, I really have a hard time believing that you would have been an Ali fan. I have a feeling you would have been cheering with Joe Frazier alongside the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, I can't see it no other way. I really believe, based on everything we've seen today, for all the people, it's like, I love the Beatles, I love John Lennon. There's a whole lot of people today who, if John Lennon had been shot in today's world and Donald Trump came out and made some heartless post about him, they would have laughed about it. So I really don't buy into anybody that's like my age or older that says, oh yeah, I definitely would have been, on the right side of history back then. I don't believe they would have for a minute. I think they would be right where they are today on the wrong side of history. And I think, if they weren't alive then, their parents and grandparents were, and they were on the wrong side of history. I used to look back at a lot of those images of like, Selma and Birmingham and all the riots that took place. And I used to say to myself, well, where did all those racist assholes go? Because I was brought up around good people. I was brought up around people who were good to people and weren't racist people. But there was a lot of underlying racism underneath there that I learned about later on and that I realized was there. And I realized that for a long time, people just got quiet about it. They stopped talking about it, but Donald Trump came along and ripped that Band-Aid off and just picked at that wound and made things so much worse. And people that I used to give credit to and think were good people just absolutely came out swinging as hard as they could. And it's been one of the most disappointing things. It is the most disappointing thing to me of Donald Trump's run in American politics. As far as the economy goes, the economy has always went up and down. As far as, people being able to, pay their bills, that's always been a struggle our whole lives. But it's what Donald Trump did to the image of America and what he did as far as, just giving people the power to say whatever they wanted to say. That's the thing that I feel like we'll never be able to get back. I really do believe that Donald Trump is the biggest stain on America since the Confederacy. And I think that it's going to take a long time for us to ever live that down. I don't think my kids and grandkids will ever see it happen. I think years from now, my grandchildren will be asked, what they think of Donald Trump or where their grandparents stood. And that's what I've always said this channel's going to be here for. It's going to be here for future generations to go, my papa didn't buy that bullshit. I'm going to make sure I don't go about naming names here on YouTube, but I do to my kids. I let them know exactly who in the family and the extended family and friends. I let them know exactly who supports that shit because I want them to know. And to anybody that's like, I love me some CCR. Let's play some Fortunate Son. It's ridiculous that people would share a video like that and say, I've never felt more patriotic. It just shows how stupid, beyond stupid, they truly are. Their brains are broken. My good friend Hawk always says their brains are broken. And it's, I don't even know if broken's the right word. I think shattered, obliterated. It's like they're pretty much gone, I've literally had people come up to me at my shows who I know are, redneck MAGA people, and they've come up to my shows and wanted to hear For What It's Worth with Buffalo Springfield. And I'm like, really? You really want to hear that one? They would hate it. They would hate all those artists if they were coming out today. And they do. I mean, there's artists out there today that makes music and they shit all over them. Tyler Childers out of Kentucky, wrote songs that pissed people off and they were ready to cancel him. And people that, covered his songs and swore him down, they loved him. They quickly started denying him really quick. So they would have did the same thing. If they'd have heard these songs back in the day, they would have talked the same way about John Lennon. They would have talked the same way about all the people that wrote protest music. They would have talked the same way about Muhammad Ali. So, it's just, again, we're talking about Venezuela and, everything that's going on there. That's dominating the news feed, but we need to continue to remind people that this is a wag the dog kind of moment, and that Donald Trump is trying his damnedest to distract from the Epstein files. And his base is so stupid that he could play the song Imagine underneath that video by John Lennon, and his followers be like, hell yeah, man, imagine a world with no religion. I mean, they're just that gone. But here's what I always want to say to you. We could sit here and poke fun and laugh all day long at their stupidity, but they're lined up and ready to vote. And I always say this to the people on our side, and I'm not saying that you have to give blind allegiance to anybody, but you do have to stop and look at the bigger picture. And when you look at the Democrats, you have to look at them and realize that, you know what, if they went to bat for me 10 times, the batting average for me, and for the good of the whole country is going to be way higher than this lunacy that we're up against. To me, it's not even close. It's not even up for debate. It's like, why are we even having the conversation? It's a shoo-in to me that we have to vote against this at all costs, because I really believe, in my mind, I said this earlier for the first time in a long time, and I kind of felt like my blood run cold when I said it. I said, democracy's dead. We have a dictator at the moment. I mean, maybe democracy might be able to come back one day, but I do not feel like we have it at this particular moment in time. I say that because you literally have people out there saying, well, we couldn't take it up before Congress because there's people that would disagree with us. So yeah, that's why that I will be voting against Donald Trump and this radical regime as long as they're around.
Well, great breakdown there by Tennessee Brando. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Hit subscribe right now and help us get to 6 million subscribers.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.